right, so when we're talking about force, impact, defensive tactics, we are talking about the skills needed to be able to protect yourself against someone who has something and they want to hit you really hard with it, right? Not an edged weapon, not a firearm, force, sticks, hammers, bats, clubs, that kind of shit. Beer bottles, right? That's what it is. Someone grabs a fucking wrench and they want to come after you. That's force impact. So we're going to look at the defensive tactics of that. You cannot make things difficult. If you make things difficult, the more moving parts, the more things you got to think about, the more problems you're going to have. You have to make things simple. So let's look at this particular weapon. If he takes that stick and he's going to put it right there. He wants to hit me with this part of the stick. This part of the stick is more powerful than this part of the stick, or if he hit me and he hit me like that. That's where he wants to come through and hit here, right? The things you don't want to do, again, you don't want to stand still. You need to move line of attack. When he comes in, I need to come in. I need to get on the inside of that weapon. That is number one. You have to get in. If I go back, he's just going to keep coming after me. Yeah, he's going to swing it again, swing it again, swing it again. The more times you go back, the more momentum he has to whoop your ass. We study ninjutsu, so evasion, tanjutsu. Those techniques, always number one. If you can evade, evade. If I can get something, throw in his eyes, get the fuck out of dodge, always number one. So, if I don't ever say number one is evade, just know, number one, with any weapon, in any attack, in any situation, always evade. Evade first. If you can get the fuck out of there and not fight, that is the number one option. Always. But let's approach this where I can't evade. What I have to do, if he has that stick, I have to attack the attack, right? And the way I do that is I make a wedge. So that when I talk about what are the principles of blunt force defensive tactics, you would want to think I need to make a wedge, like we talk about Hoko no Kamae, right? Or like, Hoko no Kamae. I want to make a wedge, and that wedge makes an arrow, and I want to dive through the opening of that particular weapon. So he brings it back over his head, and I wedge into that. See, I'm going through the middle of that line. That's what I want every fucking time. And now that weapon doesn't hurt me. I've now taken away his advantage. I've moved my line, and now I've taken away his advantage. From here, you light his ass up. I mean, it doesn't... Now we got into the martial arts skill, whether it's striking or knee strikes or elbows or whatever we're doing here to get the particular locks and so on and so forth, right? A lot of martial art teachers want to teach this whole idea of, we're going to have, 50 million techniques versus a stick. And we got 45 million techniques against a gun, and we got 72 million techniques against an edged weapon. Well, motherfucker, I ain't got that kind of time. You know what I'm saying? We're all going to train, and I can't imagine any martial artist stop training in martial arts, unless that's the way that you are. You shouldn't call yourself a martial artist then, you're just a martial arts enthusiast. There's a difference. But if you know, go ahead. If I know I've got to get on the inside, I've got to make a wedge, and that wedge has to wedge between the attacker's arm and the shoulder. And I'm going to make that wedge. And once I do that, I then want to create a 2-on-1 concept. A 2-on-1 concept is where I have 2 points of contact on the attacking arm. That 2-on-1 concept, I can do that by using 2 hands. If I wedge here and I overlap it, see, I've got 2 points of contact. That 2-on-1 concept can also be my one arm and my rib cage, like this. So now I'm using my ribs and my arm, I got 2 points, and I can light them up this way. As he comes in, so I can come in here and make my wedge, right? And then from the wedge, you see these type of techniques, right? That's the same concept of creating the wedge, 2-on-1 contact, and then going through. The finishing techniques will be up to the individual with the amount of skill that they have and the amount of techniques that they have. So that's always going to change. When the attack comes in, you have to create the wedge. Think of a wedge like, like on the front of a train, they got that thing like that, and it's just pushed through something in case it's right there. That's what you're doing. You're creating the wedge. You're going to stop them from coming in. You're stepping in between the weapon and their shoulder, and you're creating a wedge, and you're going to actually block, and you're stepping in, boom, and you're going to hit it. Now, if you're going to come high, you might see that Hoko no Kamae. If they're coming side to side, you might come in with your Juji Uke, or you want to come Juji Uke this way. However you want to do it, but you're going to create that wedge on the inside. From that point, after the wedge, number 2 is you're going to get 2 points of contact. So you're going to use both of your hands on their arm. So if I wedge here, I'm going to grab on, right? Once you have 2 points of contact, then you need 2 points of control. This is where you can, if depending on whatever techniques you want to use, you can let go with one arm if you're using the 2 points of control or your ribs and your arm. If you're going to have your 2 points of control be your hands, that's fine too. Your 2 points of contact, your wedge can be here and then turn into 2 points of contact, and your two hands can also be your 2 points of control. Do you catch what I'm saying? That's fine too. But if I'm going to use this hand to throw a punch, a back fist, or a shuto, or anything, if I want to use this hand at all, I don't want this hand holding this arm and nothing else. I need 2 points of control, right? So therefore, I'm going to wrap my arm over, and I have my arm on his arm and my body on his arm, and then I can throw punches, grabs, knees, or whatever, right? So we're talking about blunt force defensive tactics. Wedge, 2 points of contact, 2 points of control. Wedge, 2 points of contact, 2 points of control. This is an example. That concept is also fluent. My wedge, again, wedge. I'm stopping, I'm getting on the inside, I've created the wedge. Now I need 2 points of contact. I need to touch two things, need to then contact the attacking arm. Now I've grabbed. This can also be 2 points of control if I'm going to utilize my kicking techniques and taking it down and so forth. So what would that technique look like? I'm here, boom, grab, pop, pop, and then I'm in here so I can throw a strike, right? But if I don't want to use my hands as control, I come in, wedge, contact, control, and then I can shuto here, throw a strike, and then I can do different things here to put myself in a better position, right? So I'm using my ribs and my arm as the 2 points of control. 2 points of contact can be 2 points of control. Like I said, again, boom, contact. I can do that as control as well if I'm using these techniques here. Wedge, contact. Now my control is my arm and my ribs here controlling, and I can light them up here, claws, grab the hair, knees to the groin, what I need to do. But those are the principles that you need to think about. Now the martial art techniques that you use in between there, it's up to you. But you have to wedge, you have to close the distance and wedge, that's what that is. 2 points of contact, 2 points of control. You guys can do, when shit's the fan, you guys can do what you need to do, right? But now we're just going to look at that. That is going, by the way, so just make sure you're not in front of it. But yeah, so let's look at number one. Let's do like a good 3, 4, 5 of these, and then we'll move to like edge weapons and firearms and maybe different type of scenarios. Okay, so if he comes high, let's look at that. He's here, and I step in and I make my wedge. So I'm utilizing that Hoko no Kamae. So I have my wedge here, my 2 points of control. You can't do too many things. Like we could talk about principles, but you'll also have to have a reality of like fighting. I'm not going to do this, and this without him doing nothing. Like that makes zero fucking sense. So you have to do something that's going to constantly keep them reactive as well. So if I do this, we might go, he comes in, wedge, boom. See that turned into the grab. I used a knee strike to help me grab. Now I've got 2 points of contact. So if you think about your impact and your movement and adding technique in between these principles, that's where you're going to get the most efficiency from. So he comes in, I close the gap, wedge, I strike, now I've got 2 points of contact. Here's my control, I can push here, sweep, and now we're in like this. I step in, wedge, strike, push, boom. Now I'm in. What I'm trying to do when I'm moving his head, it is an eye strike, and I'm moving his face so he can't see me. So let's look at the concept of that. We've talked about wedge, and as I do this, wedge, strike, I'm pushing here, I'm raking the eyes, right? And I'm pushing that. Now I'm stepping in, and I'm going to, wherever the head goes, the body goes. I got my knee into his ribs, and that's what's going to give me the shot. And then I can get out of dodge. He's on this ground here. I don't give a shit about dicking around with that stick.